Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host, and I have the pleasure to be joined all the way in New Jersey in the US by Mary Mc Gonagle. Thank you so much, Mary, for being here, for taking the time to have this conversation, and for everyone that is listening, watching to us. Who is Mary?
Oh, wow. There's so many ways I could answer that. And thank you, Brian. I'm really excited to be here, and everyone listening. I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation. So, who am I? I am love, I am play, I am adventure, I am passion, I am resilience, and that's all the things that make up who I am. I could go in and because we're going to talk about what I do and everything, but I think it's super important to just start the conversation off with uh the energy that I embody and that makes me me.
Beautiful. I often, when I ask that question, it's so interesting for me to get out of the range of answers from people. Some people, it's like they say what they do. Some people, and a lot of times when people ask me about that, actually, I always answer it differently. But one of the ways
Yeah.
that actually really resonates with me is saying I'm an ever-evolving being. And
Ooh, I
and
love
that has
that.
always been like a really cool one. So thank you for sharing all of those qualities that you're embodying. And to get to that place, to those qualities that you're embodying, can you share a little bit about your path? Like how did you get there?
Yeah. So a little bit about me, just for context, is I am a feminine embodiment and energy coach. So I am all about really connecting to who you are at a soul level, getting out of your head, getting into your heart and your body. And there's been many, many points in my journey of life of where I felt like I almost was different from people around me. I always felt that I had such a strong purpose and such a strong pull to help people. And I was never one where I saw myself on the path of as everybody else. When people go right, I go left. And that's just how I've always been. One of my favorite quotes is do not follow where the path may lead, but go instead where there's no path and leave a trail. And that's who I am. But to answer your question about being in the past, that always left me feeling misunderstood. It always, I was the black sheep. I still am the black sheep in my family. And it can be a lonely road when you are that trailblazer for anyone listening who maybe resonates with this. And, but through those challenges, that is where I really got to know who I am at that soul level, who I am on that vibrational level. That's how I'm able to answer that question, who are you? And answer it in a deep way. And so through overcoming challenges that life has brought to me, that's where I led me to really wanting to learn and grow and evolve as much as I can and help others as well.
Beautiful. It's always interesting how our path is and the learnings that we can take from it. And there's something that I wanted to mention because I was talking about this with one of my students at university the other day, about this black sheep of the family thing. Um, and it's interesting because like, yes, that's the concept that we know. And also I told her, like, forget about the black sheep, think about the unicorn. Like you're the
Yeah.
unicorn of the family. And and that's just a rewiring of the same concept. Like we are different perhaps than the rest of the people in our environment. In
Yeah.
my belief, that's because you and everybody that is like that came here for a purpose, like to change things in the family, to do things differently, to bring a different vibration here, but as well from a more developmental perspective and a place of belonging. Like I really connect with, there's the unicorn. This is the one that is going to do things differently and not the like the bad one or the black sheep that
Yeah.
for a lot of people that has such negative connotation. And if it doesn't, then all good. It's the same concept. But for those that, like my students, that this was a heavy burden, it's like I'm different than everybody
Mm.
else. I'm not able to actually, do things, and I'm always, as you're saying, like if people are choosing right, I'm going left and stuff like that. And it's like, well, it it is challenging, and also it can bring you to a place of such power to be able to realize, I am different, and this is what I'm
Yeah.
choosing. So I'd love to know from you, as you navigated all of these challenges, how were you able to navigate all of these challenges to get to where you are, which I'm sure that there's going to be, as there are many more challenges forward.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me was really when I was trying to decide I was at a crossroads. I was trying to decide if I was going to go to grad school. I was going to take the path that I knew if I took XYZ steps that I would have a job, this certain job, and I would make a certain amount of money every single year. Or at this time, I had a calling in my soul, which was to go become a yoga teacher. And I didn't know why. And it was back in probably 6 or 7 years ago now in the summer. And I just couldn't shake this calling. And so I got to a point where I was in graduate school, and at the time I was just feeling like part of myself was dying, that I was living for other people and what I thought people wanted and expected me to be, but I wasn't living for myself. And it took me until one day I went to go meditate on a hike after hiking, and my favorite quote, which I shared with you guys already, popped into my head, and I saw my life in both scenarios, and one was more predictable than the other, and the other one was very unknown, which was go become a yoga teacher. But I fell into the feelings, and it just really felt like it was it was me. It was, oh, these feelings of love and these feelings of really of adventure and play. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to drop out of grad school. Drove across the country. I moved to Las Vegas to become a yoga teacher out there. And then that led me into the next thing, which was getting back into Reiki, which I actually used to receive Reiki when I was a kid. And then that led me into the personal development world, the spiritual development world, mental, emotional development, whatever you want to call it. And I became obsessed with just learning to grow, learning different tools and techniques that's really helped me. And then when COVID first hit in March 2020, I was back in New Jersey at this time, and I was working two full-time jobs, and I was doing my business on the side, which was yoga events, Reiki, healing, and life coaching. And at that point, I decided to go all in. And from there, it'd been a lot of challenging because I had to get over all my fears. I always say I work with a lot of women who want to step into a relationship, and I say it's the same thing with business. If you want whether you're putting yourself out there to go on dates or attract a partner, all your insecurities are going to come up. And same thing with business. If you want all your insecurities to come up to the forefront, become a business owner. So a lot of the challenges, Brian, that I had to face along the way was really stepping into seeing myself as a leader, seeing myself as someone who's powerful, because there was this really loud voice in the back of my head, and it still pops up from time to time, right? Because that's part of the journey too, which is, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are, this confident, um who do you think you are having money? Who do you think you are having success? And so yeah, I've had to really work to overcome those limiting beliefs, and not only do they get stored in our mental body, but the emotions that get attached, they get stored in our physical body, and even they show up in our physical reality. And then just overall our spiritual connection to how much we are willing to trust God, to trust the divine source, whatever you call it. So yeah, that's been a lot of the challenges, and me navigating my journey along the way.
Mm. And you know, a lot of times, and this is one of the things that I've seen for myself and through the years working with so many people is until the moment that, as you're saying, that we step into a specific place like business or relationship or whatever that is, we want to know the things that come up based on that in terms of, as you're saying, those limiting beliefs or that self-sabotage or, or just, as you're saying, the feeling experience that until we are there, we don't know what that is. And a lot of times
Yeah.
it's this, like we can imagine a lot of things, we can project a lot of things until we are there. Sometimes we don't know because there are certain dynamics that we cannot like see before that are going to show up, and this is a lot of times why it's so wonderful for me. A lot of times, this exploration, whether that is through my business or through dynamics with like partners, and that like in relationship as a romantic relationship or business, or like it's always like until that other thing comes, we don't know. And we don't know a lot of
Yeah.
times, and we can prepare. Yes, we can do a lot of healing work because as you like well known, a lot of I say a lot of times to my students, we can work on the buttons that we have, that when situations arise, they are going to be what get pushed and then we get triggered. So we can work on healing those
Yeah.
buttons. And a lot of those buttons are, as you're saying, on these different levels of our body. They are stored in the physical body, they are stored in the emotional body, they are stored in the mental body, in the spiritual body, and we can preventively do a lot of work on that. And still, there's going to be some buttons that we don't realize that are there. And this is one of the things that I wanted to start here, because I know that you do a lot of work with this in terms of healing the past, in terms of the inner child. I know that
Yes.
for me, this is big. This is one of the things that I work a lot with a lot of my clients. So I'd love to get your take on this. Like, and can you share perhaps for some
Mm.
people that might not know what that is or what that entails? Like, can you share what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my perspective, and yeah, I work a lot with helping clients heal past wounds. And the three major ones that I see uh, is around inner child. And a lot of the wounds are known as a mother wound, a feminine energy wound, a masculine wound, and a father wound. So those two are pretty much those four are pretty much the same two wounds, which is really how your relationship with your dad or whoever took on, maybe your dad wasn't in your life and you just had a single mom, then your mom also took on both roles as your mother and as your dad. So it's exploring the relationship that you had as a child with whoever was your father figure, whoever took on that role, and what were the belief systems that you created? So, a big belief system that I created as a kid, because my dad, he was a single dad with four kids, so he didn't have a lot of time. So, by nature, he was emotionally unavailable. And so, as a kid, I took on the belief system that I'm only worthy of emotionally unavailable men in my life because that's what I know. And that's what I learned as a child. So, I also was very emotionally unavailable. So, the work that I do is we're going to examine that. We're going to examine the beliefs and how that's impacted your life now in your present day, and especially with relationships, that can be any area, career, money. And so we're going to examine that and then see how it impacts you. And then it's the same thing with your mom. We're going to explore those beliefs and how that's impacted who you are and how you're showing up. And a big thing of how this ties into energy too is the father wound that impacts your masculine energy. So I know that for me, when I was a kid, I created a belief I'm only worthy of love if I've achieved something. So my masculine energy, which our masculine energy is the doing, our masculine energy is our logic, it's our head, it's the giving. So I, for a long time, was this over giving person because that's how I thought I received love. And this is all on a subconscious level. So, meaning until you dive into these subconscious beliefs, you're not aware. But when you become aware, that's when you get to create the change. So, and then the same thing goes with your mother wound and your feminine energy. So, I work with a lot of women who are scared to soften and surrender and let go of control and be in their feminine energy because maybe as a child their mom was very submissive to their dad and they didn't like that because they saw that their mom was not speaking up for herself, was not living in her truth. So I do a lot of healing with the women that I work with, especially around being able to let go, being able to surrender, because especially when you're a woman who is fully embodied in her feminine energy, so much magic happens. But to bring it back and tie this all together, Brian, it's really what I see is those two concepts, and definitely also a lot of inner child healing work where we're looking at who did you want to be when you were a child, and how does that shape who you are now? Where can you incorporate that? And meaning, I wanted to be a singer when I was a kid, and I used to write songs and sing. And, I'm now I don't have the voice per se. I mean, I love singing, but I don't think I'm going to be on American Idol or anything. But we look at the energetics behind that. I love to be seen. I love to be heard. I love to get creative. So really connecting back to that energy and that source. So a lot of the work that I do with healing in the past is all around the energetics, but also how that's playing deeply in your subconscious, and we can bring it to the forefront so you can then navigate your reality. And then the embodiment piece ties in where you are fully connected into all of that energy of who you really are.
Hmm, I love that. And like one of the things that a lot of times I tell my clients is the understanding that most of these things, as you're like saying, this is like not conscious at all. Like most of
Yeah.
this program, most of these wounds, most of this trauma, we are storing it and we're carrying it. Most of us don't know that that's there. And this is one of the things a lot of times when we are doing this type of work, and it doesn't matter which technique we're using, really is about we go deep into those places that just
Yes.
thinking a lot of times we don't get there because most of us either have repressed those parts or those experiences, or we forgot because of, again, repression, or we just like we have normalized so much certain things and we don't know beyond what we created that this is normal. As you're saying, it's like if if you grow up with an emotional unavailable like that, and then that's what you know.
Yes.
And and we could talk about anything about that, but your perspective is already like colored by that, so you don't even know until you do healing work that there is that perspective that you are carrying into this world. And this is one of the things that a lot of times it's like, well, we don't know until we know. And a lot of times it's just we can get cues on when we are like, oh, like as you're saying, like I have so many clients and it's like I'm always finding the same type of men. And it's like, well, what about you is finding
Yes.
that it's not like
Yes.
it's not about them so much. It's like what about you is
Yes.
attracting that. And a lot of times this, like I know this for myself. I love working with the energies and energy, like masculine and feminine energy. And I always tell people it's not about male or female, masculine, feminine energies, different qualities that we all have. We need to come into a place of balance, and we need to find, like what are the things that we have neglected. Because a lot of times I tell people, like, and especially women, is our society has made it so that women need to go over to the masculine a lot because of
Yeah.
work and business and just the patriarchy and the way that our society works. And they have neglected that full power of being in the feminine, which we men also have, which is that
Yes.
allowing of receiving of that depth of that flow of, like all of these different qualities that we all carry. And is how can we get to that place? And this is a lot of times it's like, for me, I work a lot holistically. And also one of the biggest things is the vibration. And this is why like I love that your branding is like the true vibe. Like because this is you know the vibration that I'm at, this is what my reality is going to bring and show me. And that's relationships, that's business, but that's also how I am living my life. It's like if I am vibrating at a vibration, let's call it on like a gratitude vibration, then I'm
Yeah.
going to actually experience things in a very different way that if I
Yeah.
am vibrating on a fear vibration, or if I am on a scarcity. And that doesn't mean that that's not going to happen, because again, we have all of those programs, all of those beliefs, and all of those wounds that are going to take us there. But just making sure that all of the time we are practicing on understanding the vibration that we want to bring, and then allowing the healing so that we get to that place.
Yes, exactly. I
Mm.
love that.
I, I'd love to know, like, when you're working, especially, like with what I just mentioned in terms of the woman in those experiences that are in their masculine. Can you share um, some of your experiences with different women? Like how have they come to see you, and like and what are some of the shifts that you see?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of the women, oftentimes that I see, they have this yearning. They know that it's scary for them to trust people. They know that they need to open up a little bit and really start to also speak up more and maybe set more boundaries. And a lot of the times, the women who I work with are coming to me because they're attracting emotionally unavailable men, or they want to heal from toxic past relationships. And I love one of the things that you mentioned, Brian, about it's like, well, what about me? Am I attracting this? Because um, one of the things that I say when working with me is we're going to hold the mirror up. So whatever is maybe you want to improve in your life, we're going to hold the mirror up and get a deep understanding of, okay, well, where in your life are you emotionally unavailable? And what's causing you to be fearful to share your emotions and be vulnerable? And a lot of the times we work through fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. A lot of the women, their subconscious is saying, and we get to this point where their subconscious is saying, if I show who I truly am, if I set boundaries, if I speak up, then what if this person leaves me? And this can be, not just for like romantic partnership, but also friends, but also if you're a business owner, clients. So we explore a big wound, which is this abandonment wound, and identify, okay, hold the mirror up. Where are you abandoning yourself? Where can you really step into the woman, step into the person that you are desiring to be? So through healing these wounds and exploring, okay, you know what? I'm going to start to set boundaries. Oh, that means I need to communicate. That means I need to start to speak up about my needs and believe that I'm worthy to speak up about my needs. So a lot of it is really getting clear on what it is that you truly want, and then being able to implement small processes along the way to allow you to become the woman, to become the person. So, on the other side of that is then this empowering piece of being someone who knows what she wants, and you're able to listen to also to your body. If something doesn't feel right, then you're able to then take the action, which is that masculine. So actually it's healing, so healing for both sides. So that's pretty much a lot of what I see. And it's really just about getting to the root of, okay, what is it that that you mentioned, like, what are you really suppressing inside of you? And let's bring that up. Let's bring that to the forefront.
Yeah. And one of the things a lot of times I often talk about this of taking responsibility and taking like agency of our own part on anything. Like I was talking some time ago with one of my clients that she was talking about how like her partner was having all of these outbursts and like was starting to get a little bit abusive in terms of just the words that he was using. And I asked her, where are you creating the opening for that? Like,
Mm,
where in your experience and in your wounds are you allowing for that to happen? Because if you're not creating an
yes,
opening, your partner wouldn't be like, he still needs to do his own work on healing that.
for
But
sure.
what can you do in that dynamic and take responsibility of your part of allowing that to take place? And and a lot of times, with this, I love that you mentioned about this abandonment, because a lot of times, most of the decisions that we make in life, and this comes from like the world of trauma, like we want to belong. We don't want to not get that
Yeah.
validation or that love. So it's like, well, if I am fully me, as you're saying, they are going to leave me. So then we don't stay there. And I was recently talking to a client and was like, she was talking, like of, well, she's not finding anyone. And I'm like, well, she was talking about like, it's just lowering her standards.
Mm,
And I told her like, I actually like I don't think that we need to lower our standards, because you're not going to be happy in a relationship that is not up to your
yeah.
standards. If you're in a relationship that doesn't match what you want, you're going to be unhappy. Yes, you're going to be with someone, and that takes care of that abandonment piece and that self-worth, or like feeling at least a little bit seen or loved.
Yeah.
And that's not going to last. And that's
No.
actually going to not be supportive of your well-being ultimately. So, like, for me, a lot of times is just being able to stay true with our experience, with our feelings, with our like needs, and to be able to also be okay with, well, if I need to be by myself for 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, or however long, then I'm going to feel that safety with myself. I'm going to feel that love with myself. I'm going to feel worthy by myself. And then also I can do that with others. And the interesting thing is that, lo and behold, when we do that, then that other like outside thing comes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's all about exactly when you finally detach and let go of needing the thing because we don't need anything. We are already whole, worthy, and complete. It's about expanding that wholeness, that worthiness, that completeness within yourself. And once you get to that place, and exactly what Brian said is that's when the thing shows up and you're like, amazing. And it's not even this big deal because you have given yourself that love. You've already given yourself whatever it is that the thing that you really desire you think will bring you when it shows up, you're like, cool, you're not even faced because you've already given that to yourself.
Mm, yeah. And I want to go back to something that you mentioned around the boundaries, because this is one of the
Yeah.
things that a lot of times I see. And this, like, I mean, I want to say this. I work through the years with men and women, but anything that is well-being related is mostly women. So I have a lot of experience working mostly with women. Um, and it's interesting because I want to say this because of the following. Most women have a hard time setting boundaries.
Yeah.
And most men that I have worked with are good at setting boundaries, but they are not actually knowing the boundaries that they are wanting to set. Therefore, they
Mm,
are forcing certain things. So there's, like issues in what I've seen through the years, but as well, and this is one of the things that I usually talk a lot about. That is that if we haven't done work on ourselves, we don't know the boundaries that are going to be helpful for us.
yes,
And also, we need to understand that that is the first part. Like, I cannot communicate a boundary if I don't know what it is that I'm
exactly.
needing and how I'm behaving or how I'm showing up, or even understanding, as a good boundary of like, oh, I haven't yet healed this. And I noticed that when this happens, I am triggered in this way. And that's also like supportive of boundaries so that the other person doesn't get defensive if that takes place. And to be able to communicate as well, not in the moments that things are actually charged. It's like, get to know myself, communicate so that then when things actually happen, we have an
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Because so everything, how you react and what you believe is also what you're going to get and anticipate. So a lot of, and what, what I mean by this is a lot of, I'm sure you see this too, Brian, but a lot of my clients before setting boundaries, they're scared because they're like, well, what if this person doesn't take it well? What if, they get mad? What if they leave me? All the what ifs. And it's like, that's your belief system right now around boundaries because I hold the belief system that people will respect me more. I will be paving a way for other people. Wow, look at Mary setting that boundary. That's awesome. I want to do that. So if you're going in with the energy of, oh my gosh, I'm scared, then you're going to attract that. But also, boundaries is like going to the gym, boundaries is growing a muscle. So, exactly already what Brian said is you might not be even sure what your boundaries are. And that's the first thing to start to become aware of is identify what your boundaries are. And how I guide clients with this is to start to identify their boundaries is two ways. One is to think of some of your non-negotiables right now. What are some of the things that maybe someone does and that irks you or makes you mad? And so just for example, my one of my very big non-negotiables is lateness. I have a very big boundary around people being late. Um, and I have a very big boundary with, my clients. So I make sure that that boundary is communicated and set. And also it's a two-way street, right? I always make sure that I'm on time, that I'm honoring, this is my boundary. Let me also make sure that I'm on time with things. But then the second way to start to identify your boundaries is think of a past experience where maybe someone did something or said something to you and examine that. Look at, well, how did that make you feel? Where did you, I'm very big on embodiment work. Where did you feel that in your body? Was it your gut, your hips, your heart, your face? Because that's energy being stored in your body also that needs to be released and worked through. So look at a past experience of where you didn't set a boundary and what you would have done differently. So when that situation arises, then you can set that boundary. And really you're going to feel so good about it. And at first it might feel uncomfortable because again, it's like stepping in the gym for the first time. If you haven't gone to the gym and ever, right? Maybe you've never set boundaries. I know past examples of myself. I describe myself as the doormat. I would let people walk all over me. Oh, it's fine, because that's also the people pleaser in me. That was also the nice girl in me
Mm.
that put other people on a pedestal. Well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. And it's like, well, what about yourself? So the more that you start to do this work, the more that you get to really, in a sense, fill your cup up first. And then when you are so in tune with your energy, you will vibrate again at that frequency of like, oh, people are going to respect me so much more because I respect myself. And granted, maybe people who don't respect you because they have no idea of boundaries either, and that's good because you're going to be giving less you're going to be giving way less to the people who are just taking and taking and taking and who are not giving back.
Mm. Yeah. And one of the things with that is that just because of our society, like we have been taught in a sense to neglect ourselves for others, as you're saying, that
Yeah.
people pleasing or that giving. And actually, like in a lot of the traditions or religions around the world, like it's like, like you give and you give and you give and you do things for others. And I'm a big proponent on empowering people to, you know, do just like on the airplane. Put your mask first on before
Yeah.
you actually put someone else's mask on, because we need to understand that. And this, I see this especially with all of my clients that have been women or my students at uni, like through the years that are women. There's this big thing, like you need to give, you need to give, you need to give, and you neglect yourself. And
Yeah.
being able to step into that place of like, actually, I'm going to reprioritize myself. I'm going to see what are those things that you were just mentioning, like those past experiences where I neglected myself or I did things for others and that made me feel like icky or whatever, and just exploring what that was and also choosing, well, like what I want out of these situations, what's good for me. Like, do I need to take some time for doing this or for that? And then, yes, once we realize that, communicating those boundaries and knowing that a lot of times, actually, this is going to be much more conducive to have meaningful relationships, as you're saying, like
Yeah.
we start to realize like, actually, like these are the people that I'm vibing with now, and I'm going to spend my time here and my energy here. Over there, not so much anymore, and that's okay. And it's just being able to recognize how we are vibrating and what we're resonating with, and to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. And I'd love to know, so, like when people work with you, like when you see this, and even for yourself, how does that look like when someone is
Mhm.
actually, like feeling that empowered, feeling and in that place of like more balanced in this masculine energies?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So it looks like you are speaking your truth. You aren't worried about what people are going to think of you. You are able to really express yourself the way that you want to express and share yourself. So yeah, whether that's through speaking, whether that's through wearing what you want to wear, whether that's through allowing yourself to feel so filled with beautiful emotions of love and welcome that in. And so how that looks is, especially emotional side, is bringing in partnerships, bringing in soul aligned friendships, bringing in being able to manifest and bring in career opportunities, business opportunities, clients, because you are operating in a vibrational frequency that is in alignment with who you are. So a lot of what Brian and I have talked about so far is really been ways to shift into that alignment. But when once you are in that alignment, whatever it is that you want, things happen so quickly. Even just, for example, in my life where I've been able to like I know I'm in alignment when I want something and it happens so fast. Like when a year ago I was looking for an apartment and I had on my vision board exactly where I wanted to live, and boom, it opened. And there was no way. I was like, there's no way I'm getting into this apartment building. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, here I am. I was able to move in at my literally my dream location, dream spot. And so it just, to put it in a way where it just pretty much opens up any possibilities, because you are seeing how powerful you are, and you're able to then look at something and say, okay, I can have that. Who do I need to be in order to have that? And then you get into energetic alignment. And really that's when anything that your heart desires, all the possibilities open up and come to
Mm.
you.
Yeah. And one of the things that also a lot of times I share is that a lot of times when we are in that place, what we then receive or what we experience might not be what we were thinking exactly, because
Yeah.
we are in a sense we are not able to actually open up to the full opportunities and potentials that are out there. We are limiting ourselves in the things that we believe that are possible. And
Yeah.
yes, as you're saying, there are some things that when we put the attention there and the intention, like, wow, like it happens. And also, there's a lot of things that is just beyond our wildest dreams. And that is beautiful as
Yes.
well.
Yes, exactly. It's when you are in alignment, and I love that you said that, because it's like you may think that you want something, but that thing might not actually be for you. And then so when you fully are able to let go and just surrender and say, you know what, I'm just going to show up every day as myself. And then you start to get really clear signs, and you connect with your intuition, and you're able to be divinely guided to what actually is for you. So then you get to this place where you look back and you're like, oh, thank God that didn't work out. Thank God I didn't accept that job opportunity. Thank God I didn't stay, or, thank God it didn't work out with that person in this relationship that I really, really wanted. You're like, oh my gosh, thank God. So yeah, I love that you added that in there, because being in a vibrational alignment, energetic alignment, whatever you want to call it with yourself, you really just see that everything is working out for you and for your highest good. So that's definitely one of the belief systems that I hold for myself, because even when I really want something and it doesn't go as planned, I'm like, okay, this is working out for my highest good. What did I learn? What insights did I gain? And then I just always remind myself that one of my other favorite quotes, which is rejection is God's protection. So maybe there was something I couldn't see down the road, and that's why it didn't work out. And really just being okay with that. That
Mm,
is just fully leaning into trusting the process, trusting God, trusting whatever you believe in.
yeah, I love that. Like I know from my experience a lot of times, uh, like as an example, like when I was one of the times that I was living in the US, and And I was like, okay, I'm staying here for 3 more years. I'm like getting my work visa extended. And suddenly from one day to the next, it's like visa not extended, denied, and like having to leave the country. And it's like, well, like I remember in that moment, I was like, well, I just need to move on to what's next. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like for some reason, the universe wanted me to be somewhere else and not here, because if not, my
Yeah.
visa would have been approved. And
Yeah.
it's that kind of stuff that is the like I was so in that moment, I was so glad that I was able to actually experience it in that way, because I was like,
Hmm.
I was seeing all of the other people like telling me, "Oh no, my God," like, and things like that. I'm like, that's what it is. I just need to
Yeah.
redirect and find what is it, because as you're saying, like for some reason that didn't take place. And what good is it to me actually complaining or just wanting to, like
Yes.
be frustrated or angry about that, when all that I need to do is like, oh, well, what's the next opening?
Yes, exactly. Okay, this didn't work out, then exactly, what's that saying? A door closes, a window opens. It's like hold the belief system that everything is working out for you and for your highest good. Even just when I first finished my yoga teacher training and I was applying to yoga jobs when I moved back to New Jersey, and I didn't get any of the jobs that I applied for. So I started my own thing because I'm like, okay, this isn't working out. And that was what was in alignment for me. So I love that you mentioned that, Brian, because, for someone listening, a lot of the times we have to allow ourselves to let go and see what can open up for us.
Definitely, definitely. And Mary, as we're getting closer towards the end of this conversation, for anyone that is listening or watching us that is resonating with you, with your message, with what you're sharing, with your energy, where can they find you? How can they interact or work with you?
Yeah, if you enjoyed this conversation, connect with me on Instagram at MaryMC4. Let me know that you listened to the podcast and what you took away from it. I'd love to hear your share. And then if you're interested in ways to work with me, we can hop on a call where I can really just see where you're at and if it's a good fit. So all of that can be you can just send me a message on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, my website is truevibewellness.com. And if you're just curious too to be more in my space and my energy, I have my podcast, The Living Your True Vibe. And so those are all the ways to stay connected.
Beautiful. So I'll put all of those links on the show notes so that if you resonate with Mary, go and check it out. And go and check out her podcast as well. Like, this is the thing. We always resonate with different things. So perhaps you resonate more with that podcast instead of this podcast. So go and jump on board there. Um, there's, like, we all resonate with something different. So thank you so much, Mary, for taking the time, for being here. For everybody listening, as Mary was saying, we'd love to know, what did you hear, what resonated, what was new, what have you already done in terms of all of this work that we've been talking about. Any comments, any questions, any shares, whatever it is that you're finding this episode, just comment there so that we can keep that conversation going. And thank you, Mary, so much for being here and for sharing your vibe with us here. And thank you for taking the time and for the work that you're bringing into this world as well.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate this beautiful space that you've created. And I'm just so grateful that we got to connect and just have an amazing conversation. And thanks, everyone, for being a part of the conversation, too.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary, and thank you everyone for being there. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using hashtag conscious action and tagging at conscious action NZ, so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.